We've been working on a better way to access favorite queries. Now, favorite queries are powerful, but I don't want my users to have to navigate to the query manager or query viewer to find them. I want those queries right at their fingertips, just like any favorite, accessible from the NavBar. So let's complete enough of that solution to test and then work our way through the missing pieces. Now, this episode is part of a series on building a My Favorite Queries tile, and we included links to the other episodes within the video description. So let's start by creating a component and menu so we can publish and then test our solution. Then we can make a list of what's left and make a plan to complete those final tasks. So back into Application Designer, let's now create a component, new component, and let's grab our page and drop it into the page. We'll set the item label. How about my favorite queries? And I'm using the prefix YT. So let's put that there just to make it easier to find. Now, in our page, we can see our level 1 content is keyed by Opera ID. So we have two keys here, Opera ID and query name. Now that would be our level 1. Now, if we can find a search record that automatically selects level 0, then PeopleSoft will apply the relational rule for us and only select rows with the matching Opera ID. So the question is, where can we find an Oracle delivered record that's already keyed by Opera ID? I think I have an idea. How about this? How about my system profile? So user made self, let's grab that component. In an application designer, open component, user made self. Let's look at the search record. Okay, fantastic. Let's open the record. And let's look at the key structure. And sure enough, Opera ID is a key field. And with our record, Opera ID query name are the Opera ID query name. So this would, out from a PeopleSoft relational rule, my favorite queries, the view, would be considered a child record of PS user self-search because of the key structure. The child record has the exact same key structure as the parent, plus at least one additional key field. So one key field, two key fields, same primary and additional secondary. That's fantastic. And now the good news is this Oracle delivered record already has the appropriate people code to bypass search, set the search key to be the logged in user. By the way, there's another trick. That is, if you mark Opera ID as a key field, but do not mark it as a search key, the PeopleSoft will automatically restrict rows to just the logged in user. Anyway, let's take what Oracle created. Let's use that as our search record. So in our component, there it is, our component. Let's set our search record. And we don't need add mode. Let's also go to the fluid tab. We need to mark this as a fluid mode component. And sure, why not display on small form factor home pages? This looks good. So we'll save the component. How about we give it the name YT fave QRYTLFL. Okay, that's fantastic. Okay, the next step would be to create a menu. So new menu, and it'll be a standard menu, and the bar, we'll call that use with the label of use. And we will insert our new component into this menu and update the label. YT, my favorite queries. Okay, let's save the menu and then complete the registration process. So YT fave QRY. And I'll register the menu item. Now it's going to ask me into what folder would I like to place this. I'm going to put it in the PTFL People Tools folder. The PTFL People Tools folder is a special folder. It's a tile category. It's the PeopleSoft Applications category, so it exists in all PeopleSoft instances. This is not normally where I would put custom content, but since it exists in your system, it exists in my system, it's a great place for prototyping and demoing. But the special folder exists in Fluid Structure and Content Fluid Pages. So it's what we call a tile category. It's already there. We can take advantage of it. By publishing to a tile category, this content, this component will already be available as a tile because a tile is just a content reference that exists in a special folder in the structure and content. Let's give this an appropriate label. How about YT, my favorite queries? And node name is very important. We talk a lot about node names in our different people tools classes. Here, we're going to select HRMS. HRMS happens to be the system that we're publishing into. That's where the content resides. So that's the node we're going to use. There are lots of different answers for the node name. There's one correct answer. There are other answers that will work. And there's some that, while they work, I would say they're the wrong answer. We talk about that in great detail in lots of our different people tools classes. Permission lists will go with PTPT1000. That's the standard PeopleSoft user permission list, which is basically going to grant access to everybody. That may or may not be what you want. Here, again, I'm using it for prototyping purposes. In real life, you would choose the appropriate permission list. And finish. Great, we're ready. Let's add it to our NavBar and test it out. So online, I'm going to expand the NavBar so I can get to the personalize icon and then choose add tile. And let's just search for YT because that was the prefix that we used. And there it is, YT, my favorite queries. And I want to move it up so it's a little bit easier to find. Press the done button. Now the icon is currently set to the default icon. I'll show you how to change that later. So I'll click and let's test it out. Oh, interesting. It actually opened the content in the main transaction area, didn't it? We want it to open in the content area of the navbar. So right now I can see a few items that we need to add to our list, some things that we need to do still. I mean, otherwise the content looks good. Now we don't need a page tab at the top. We only have one page. And also when we're rendering the content in the sidebar, in the transaction area, the content area of the navbar, page tabs don't make any sense, do they? So let's get rid of the page tab. We don't have a hover effect, so that's something that we need to add later. We also need that button in the upper right corner that says Open in Query Manager or perhaps Open in Query Viewer. So let's do this quickly. Let's fix the page tabs. Let's take that away. That's easy. In the component, we go to the Use tab, the Internet tab, excuse me, and we disable folder tabs, disable hyperlinks, reload. Okay, that's better. Now, how do we get the content to load into the navbar content area, not the main transaction area? And the answer is through structure and content. So let's find this in structure and content. Now we happen to know where it is in structure and content because we published it to a specific location in structure and content. But what if you don't know? What if you're looking at a tile, you've launched a tile, and you see the URL for the tile, or you can do J control, for example, and get the component name for the tile. Where does this tile exist in the quote tile repository? So in a new window, I'm going to navigate to Enterprise Components. I'm going to use one of my favorite enterprise components. It is Find Object Navigation. Give it a component name, and it's going to tell me any content reference that exists, the path to that content reference. So it's Fluid Structure and Content, Fluid Pages, PeopleSoft Applications. Okay, fantastic. So in a new window, let's go to People Tools, Portal, Structure and Content, and then Fluid Structure and Content, Fluid Pages, PeopleSoft Applications, and let's find that YT. YT, my favorite queries. And on the very last tab, there's a couple things here. Number one, image name. The image is currently set to the default image. We probably want a different image. Let's just go with, there's this great image. I love using it. It has a easy name to remember, and the image looks like a bullhorn. It is the PS Announce LFL. And then let's reload. And when we look at the navbar, you'll notice that it now has a different icon, different image. Now, the image that I use is probably not appropriate. The idea behind an image is that it should help your user identify the content. Now, I don't think that a loudspeaker is the appropriate icon to say, hey, these are my favorite queries, but it's a great icon. So that's what we'll use here temporarily until we come up with a better idea. But also while we're here, this is how we fix where the content is rendering. So notice the display in attribute. It says display in current window, which means the main transaction area. we want to change that to display in NavBar. Now, it's loading the content in the NavBar. So this is where we'll leave off with this episode. And where we'll pick up with the next one is we need to add a button to the top, we need to add that hover effect, and we need to make each row clickable. Now, at JSM Pros, we teach people tools and web development concepts like this every week. So be sure to check out our website to see what we're offering next. Or here's an idea: subscribe to our LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter feeds to receive updates every time we post a course. Or do you have a team that wants to learn more? Give us a call and let's get something scheduled. Now, before we go, I have a question for you. Do you have a topic you'd like us to cover in a future soundbite? If so, let us know by sharing your idea at soundbites.jsmpros.com. Now, if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe for more content. And we look forward to seeing you in the next episode.